Today I want to kind of go over a little tiny bit of a continuation of the last ITLs that we did, and then kind of take you into another subject that we're going to explore fully later, that being MS technique. I think it's one of the most useful things and tools that we have available to us. But when we do that, we'll speak with Brad Blackwood and Dave Kutch and Matthew Lane. Matthew Lane's got a Dr. MS plugin, which is spectacular. I've shown you that before. But today what I want to do is start with kind of continuing what different frequencies, what they kind of make you feel and all that. But instead of doing it on just a vocal, we're going to show you in several different ways. And let's start with just playing you this mix. This is a girl from Australia. Incredible project. Her name's Christina. Here's the bridge, a little bit of the bridge and the hook.
Hot boys, hot girls out of control. Late night play fights, that's how we roll. Don't tell us to turn it down. I've never felt so alive.
Sitting on the rooftops, making out to punk rock. It's like, whoa. Dancing on the rooftops, listening to punk rock, singing, whoa. This world is mine. Walking on the spotlight, tearing down the street signs, singing, whoa. 16 and dancing on the rooftop.
So that's what we got to work with. So let's start with this. Let me show you some of the individual components. Remember our philosophy about not trying to let one thing do too much lifting. And so we're using 5 Voxes, and we're sending different elements. We've got a vocal, a music, bass, drums, and an effects aux. So I'm going to show you how to do a little lifting there, and then do a little more on the stereo bus and how the different frequencies on the stereo bus do different things. So think of it as you're making spaghetti sauce. You don't throw everything in the pot and cook it at once. It's not best to put everything you need on the stereo bus. If you need too much on the stereo bus, you probably want to start mixing again. But think of it as you're cooking the pasta, you're making the spaghetti sauce, and you're making the meatballs. Think of those as our different auxes. So the meatballs we're going to prepare on one aux, the pasta on another aux. Somebody bitch slapped me because this is the dumbest metaphor I've ever come up with. And then we throw that together, and that's our finished dish. And the finished dish that wasn't Freudian. The finished dish is our stereo bus. Let's start with the music. Okay, now there's 3 plugins I normally use when I want to use an MS technique. One is Center by Waves, which is excellent. Another one of my favorites is Dr. MS by Matthew Lane. And then this Brainworks BX1, pretty spectacular. And this is on UAD. We're able to EQ the middle and the sides differently. So let's start off with that concept. Here's just the middle. Here's just the side. Middle. Side. Okay. Now let's take a little on the middle. Let's take a little bit of the low end out so that we got a spot for our bass. So here's our middle. I don't know if you can hear it on your laptop, but I'm taking that frequency out of just the middle. This is my EQ for the middle. This is my EQ for the side. So I'm taking a little bit of low end off of the middle. Now on the side, I'm going to add a little bit of extra high end on both. Now that affects the guitar. So now on this plugin, I can also shift my low frequency a little bit. I shifted it to where my dip goes down, and I got a little bump here because I thought that was kind of neat. Now another thing we can do is we can make everything below a certain frequency mono. Now that helps tighten up your low end considerably. Like in a club, if the speakers are 200 feet apart, sometimes the stereo bass doesn't really work well. So let's take the low frequency and make it mono. But that's the only thing we're doing is everything below this frequency right here, which is 48, is mono. So that helps. And that's just on the music. Now I'll solo the bass so you can see why I did that. So now let's show what's happening. Listen to the width. Width. Without. Pretty dramatic. You can see that I'm clearing things out for the vocals to sit. I'm smoothing out those sorts of things. This plugin is pretty spectacular, but so is Center and so is Matthew Lane's Dr. MS. The technique is what's important, not the plugin here, and the concept. Now, why did I do that? Let's play that with the bass. I don't know if you can hear the difference when I took it out, but the bass just sits in your face. Now, what did I do to the bass? Like I told you, I'm not a big believer in carving, but we're taking a little bit of 100 out. Taking that frequency out. Standard bass EQ 101, standard R bass 101, and then I very rarely do these type of cuts, but I like it. This is with it, without it. Now let's see how that works together with our music. See, we've got a nice spot for that to sit. Okay, now let's see what we got going on the drums. For some reason, I kept getting too much of this 100, 125, so I took a little bit of that out of the drums. And then I wanted to add a little bit more punch at 1.5, and I love the Waves plugin for that. And then our old buddy, the Massey. So let's start without anything. Let's start adding it back in. Okay. Now let's compare the drums with the bass. Now I'm going to let it play while I take everything off, and you can see how the bass is working now. Okay, so technically what we're doing is we've got some of the kick drum sitting below the bass and some of the kick drum sitting just above some frequencies in the bass. We got our highest frequencies of the two components are the beater on the kick and then the top end of the bass and then the bass has got some sub in it because it's more of a rock song than a pop song. Although I treated it like a pop rock song. Let me show you kind of what I got going on here. This is what I like to do. I'm using the Moog EQ4. They've got a great plug-in. Both of these you can get at Vintage King, but that's not important. What's important is the frequencies. Okay, here's without anything on the stereo bus. I'm gonna add it after the first bar. Okay, what I've done is I've added a little bit of ultra top, not much, I've added about a dB at shelf 10K. Then I added a little bit at 2.5K, I added half a dB, and then I added half a dB at 160, and then I rolled off some sub. So I'm gonna exaggerate those frequencies so you can kind of hear it with and without. Now we're gonna do the 10K shelf, with and without. I mean, a little and none. Okay, 2.5K. Okay, and then the sub, I don't know if you can hear on your laptops, but we'll try. That's about it. Hope you got a little bit of knowledge from that. And then I promise you, I mentioned this a long time ago. I definitely want to do like 2 episodes of Into the Lair on MS technique. It's a powerful technique. Today I made it more about frequencies and less about the concept, but you can see it allows you to do a lot of things. And then the stereo bus, those frequencies are the ones I tend to work with the most. But on the drums, I didn't add the 1K to everything. I just added it to the drums. That's all that needed it. The 2.5K gave me a little bit of edge on everything. Just kind of took it out of that smooth Sade realm and put it in kind of a more modern, edgy. It emphasizes the screaming part of her vocal. All right, hope you got something out of that. Thanks.